Welcome back to Let's Talk. Let's Talk episode 23. Let's talk about boys. I have my oldest friend with me. Well, my oldest friend that still talks to me. And one of my oldest friends. Jessica, you might remember her from our other episode that we did together when we talked about, my camera's shaking, when we talked about self-harm. And today is a little bit more of a lighthearted topic, I guess you could say. Jess, for the people who might not remember you, do a little intro of yourself and who you are.
Yes, I'm Jessica, and Anna and I have been friends for such a long time, and just really happy to be here, live in the same greater Des Moines area as Anna, and yeah.
And here we go. Okay. Today's episode is going to be super casual. I feel like we were kind of talking about this a little bit beforehand, but I really want the point of it to be for the girls who are listening to hear about our experience kind of growing up, being younger, and the amount of space that thinking about boys, talking about boys, worrying about boys took up into our lives. Because I look back at that time and it's like, yeah, I spent time with friends. Yeah, like I went out and did things, but the majority of the space in my mind was taken about what the opposite gender was thinking about me, what they were doing, you know, if they were texting me back. Like I was thinking about even when I was in high school, I did like a homeschool high school co-op, so I can't really say that. I technically went to like a high school thingy once a week. And I liked this one boy so much that like I would genuinely text him almost every single day. And I'll never forget on Valentine's Day when he sent me a picture of a heart. And I was like, this is your moment.
This is big news.
And I opened it, obviously, and it was a picture of like one of those little candy hearts. And it said friend zone.
Who was this?
His name was Eli. So,
Okay,
hey,
we
Eli.
had like a half double date, remember that?
Oh my gosh. I completely forgot you even knew. I always forget that you knew them and met them.
Just
Always. You met Eli too?
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't, see, he gave me the most mixed signals in the world though. He would invite me over to hang out with his family. He was like, I really want you to meet my parents. And then I'd be like, I have feelings for you. And he would be like, I don't feel that way. And I'm like, then why am I going golfing with your family on a random Saturday? I don't care. Okay, anyways.
Come over to my house and watch a movie with me.
Yeah. Why did you put your arm around me and say, wow, you're really pretty? That's weird to do. Anyways, so never mind. Different time. But so I thought that we were talking about kind of where we would go. And I thought that maybe we could start with, so we went to the same church. I think we talked a little bit about that in the other episode. We grew up there. I think my family left before your family. Is that correct?
Yep.
And so, but we knew all of the same people, you know, not like anybody crazy came afterwards. So I thought we would kind of, you know, I left with the party, I guess. Anyways, but I thought we would talk about, let's just start here. Let's start with the boy of our church. Okay, let me set this straight for myself really fast. I was homeschooled, and to the people who are homeschooled out there are slim pickings. You go to school with your siblings, and I'm not that type of homeschooler, so things weren't progressing that way. So church boys were my only option. That was genuinely the only option I had. However, though, this particular boy, I'm just going to say it. Should I just say the name? I'm just going to say the name. Who cares? There's no way he even watched it. His name was Dominic, okay? And I will never forget him for as long as I live, because the role that he played in my life for me at that time he was my world. Like I thought of him constantly. And it wasn't until I feel like later where you told me, because he was so much of my life, that it wasn't until later when you told me that you also had a crush on him at the same time.
How much we loved him.
Yes.
I was like, me too.
Yeah. That was smart, because I was not a nice little girl sometimes.
And I also liked a different guy at the church.
Who was that?
Mio.
Oh my gosh. He might actually watch this. That's an actual thing. Okay. Anyway, we're married. Who cares?
I doubt it. And if he does, I'm married. We've moved on.
Who cares? Who cares? So, let's start here. What do you think it was about Dominic that because every single girl at this church had a crush on him. I don't know one girl who didn't.
I
What do
mean,
you think it was about him?
we didn't have too many options. I mean, number one, he's also like just tall. He wasn't. I never really talked to him, so I didn't know why.
Neither did I.
Like, but it was like he would see me and he'd like literally like half smile and then walk away. It wasn't like he was like, "Hey, what's going on?" It would just be like, it's like, and I was like, "Oh."
Like I have diary entries of me like I used to lead worship at our church and I have diary entries of me being like as I was leading worship today I looked up and Dominic and I made eye contact and I can tell what I was singing really hit him. Like no it didn't. You're on the stage and that's where the words are.
Also,
Like
what is he like 2 years older?
I think so because he was homeschooled as well.
He was.
And he was homeschooled as well for a bit, not high school. He went to
Okay.
Southeast Polk, but for a while he was homeschooled because his family and my family, we would meet up at Chuck E. Cheese on the first day of like public school for everybody else. And I don't know if you remember this. This episode is gonna see like people are gonna be like, this is hilarious because I feel like I've done such serious topics and now it's like boys, LOL. But at Chuck E. Cheese there was this game. And it was like this gorilla thing where you like held on to these two like silver things and it like, do you remember this? And it like shook you, it like vibrated and you had to like test your strength. And I'll never forget when Dominic did this and like my heart raced. My heart literally raced. I was like, wow, he's like so strong. He can do the gorilla game.
Wow. Yeah, mine was not that serious, but
Yes. So
it was
I
just more of a you're kind of pretty, but
see, and the crazy thing is, though, now that we're talking about it, it took up so much space in my mind. I also feel like it was one of the only topics at certain times that you and I would talk about when we were that age and when we were like going through and at that church. But it's like you and I cannot point to any significant conversation that we had with this person. Can you? Like, I seriously
No.
cannot.
he never asked me how I was.
No.
No, nothing.
I can physically not think of it. I can think of, we exchanged texts every now and then because we were like in the same youth group and sometimes we'd play music together. I think that was genuinely the most conversation him and I ever had.
Yeah.
And so when I think about that though, and the idea that I allowed somebody that didn't even care about me or give me the time of day to like encapsulate my brain. Like now that we're talking about it, it shows me why then I went on to pick people that I dated and like give them that time of day because it's like from such a young age, I had no value in myself to realize he never liked me. It was extremely apparent. And B, it's like, you can't even point to a significant moment. There has never been any moment. I can't think of one thing that him and I shared where I was like, wow, maybe I could hold on to this. Nothing.
Sorry if you're hearing that. My house likes to make noises.
No, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. And so it's like, I don't know about you, but it makes me realize why. I feel like from a young age, the way you view yourself is how you are going to allow others to treat you. And so when I was younger and I was super self-conscious, I was a little chubbier as a kid. I'm thinking of that picture that you have.
The one after Sky Zone?
If you don't know what Sky Zone is, I have to share. If you don't know what Sky Zone is, it's this trampoline park. And I was a little chubby bunny back in the day. And so there's this picture you have of me after like working my behind off at Sky Zone jumping on the trampoline. And my hair is like in a messy ponytail and my
Yeah,
face
it's
is
kind of
like
the foam
beet red.
shape, which took a lot of effort to get out of.
My face is beet red and I have like a beer belly at the age of 10. Like
I did not take this photo for those of you listening. Our youth leader did. And she sent it out to our families and I have just kept it. I am also in the photo.
anyways, but my point is the way that I viewed myself, which was I didn't have I didn't have high self-confidence. I didn't view myself with integrity. I didn't think very highly of myself which to then I allowed myself to be treated poorly. I allowed my mind to be taken over by boys who didn't give me the time of day, and then later on I'm thinking about when I actually had, serious boyfriends, the way that I allowed them to treat me. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree about that?
I mean, for the most part, but also it's like whenever you are at that age, it's just so overwhelming to be like attracted to someone. And so I
Mm,
think it's completely normal for it to take up so much space in your
yeah.
mind. It's a matter of like what you do with that.
Yeah.
Like, because like I was always thinking like, what does this person think of me? Like, do I look pretty? Like, anytime I see a boy my age, I'm like, oh, does he think I'm pretty? Blah 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 blah. But it's like, did I like? The difference was like, were you focusing on it constantly, or were you able to be like, yeah, I wonder if he thinks I'm pretty, and she'd be like, well, oh well, this is what I look like today, so that's what it
Yeah.
is. Which like I didn't do. I like focused on it, and I think you did
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But I think that's where that control needs to come in and be like, this isn't worth my time. This
Yeah.
random boy, this boy from church, this boy from school, like, this is what I look like today. The zit on my face isn't going away. So worrying about if he's noticing it isn't going to change anything. So I think that's like the way to do it if you can control it.
Well, and that's why I'm kind of saying too, the way you view yourself, the way it has to start with one, knowing whose you are and having that, identity completely rooted in Christ. Because without that, then your identity can easily be put into, oh, what does Dominic from church think of me today? Oh, he didn't smile at me today, which means since my identity isn't rooted in knowing whose I am and it's rooted in Dominic, and it's almost making boys an idol. And I feel like that is something that I did, and I did that for a long time. And I would say I probably even did that up until I met Steven like 4 years ago, is just making boys my idol because I made their viewpoint of me, what they thought of me, or obsessing over them more important than my relationship with Christ. How does God view me? What does he expect from me? Not what does this boyfriend of mine expect from me? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's funny to reminisce about stupid times and all that stuff, but it's like, I wish that I could go back and, tell myself that it's important to A, root yourself in Christ, but B, root yourself in having high self esteem because you are a daughter of Christ. But it's also something, though, where when you're that age, that kind of stuff sounds cheesy. Like it doesn't sound like something that I can take seriously. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you hear that
Mhm.
kind of stuff in like church and youth group, and you're always like, this is so stupid,
Yeah.
you
Like,
know?
why would I say that to myself?
Yeah. Like I'm a daughter of Christ. Like as a 12-year-old, I'm like, okay. Like so I almost feel like, and this kind of goes into our youth group growing up, where I wish that they had taken more topics that were actually happening to us and going, hey, look, the Bible actually talks about this. This is where you can find this. Because so many churches are like, here's Jonah and the whale for the 80th time, And it's like, I know a lot of those stories and those are important to know, but it's like, where do I go from here? And like, I knew so many homeschoolers too who like didn't realize what the real world was going to be like. They thought that they could just go out and share the story of Christ and everybody would turn. And that's not the case. People are going to peer pressure you, etc. And I feel like that's a real problem in our youth groups.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, granted, I've only been to I think two youth groups. And I guess I went to three youth groups in my time. And the one I went to my senior year of high school was the best. I mean, it was just there was like a dedicated youth pastor at our smaller church. We didn't have like you are the youth pastor. It was kind of like who wants to volunteer
Mm.
and be like the youth leader. And so it's like at my other church, we had an official youth pastor. Like that is his whole job. And so it was to like talk with us and learn about what we wanted to learn about, and then study the Bible to figure out, what are the answers to the questions that they're asking. How can I help them? And so like we did talk about dating, and we would separate into boys and girls, and that was really helpful because it was like you could talk about boys from school without the boys in there laughing at you.
Yeah.
Or like whatever you wanted to talk about. It was like secluded to that gender. And I was lucky enough that all the girls in that youth group were super nice, super great. And so it was a completely safe space.
Well, I feel like so, for example, I remember at the church that you and I went to, I remember the pastor talking about porn, and I had no idea what that was. And I didn't feel comfortable talking with it about my parents. And also, I didn't feel comfortable bringing it up in youth group, and that's a problem. You should feel comfortable bringing up those issues in your group. Just like a small group as adults, you'd feel comfortable talking about things because you're all adults. But kids, high schoolers, they hear about these things as well. And so I remember going home and Googling it. And obviously, that didn't bring me the answers that I needed. But it kind of is. Obviously, I was like, whoa. But anyways, this is the kind of stuff that's like, that's why it's important to talk about in youth groups. And circling back to the whole problem of this, which was about boys, all of this stuff, it's like, if we had more youth groups in America today that actually honed in on issues like, hey, are you dealing with boy issues, girl issues, porn stuff, etc.? It's like, let's be a community together. Let's talk about that. Like, I feel like we have really great fellowship for adults. Like once we reach our age, I feel like there are more options at least. But when you're right in that high school, you usually at a church have one youth group that you can go to, and that's kind of it. And, and when they would try to teach us serious stuff, it didn't always go over.
Well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to talk about the one time that I wasn't there. You have to talk about that.
Okay.
You have to say it.
It was inappropriate to laugh at this, but it was hilarious.
Okay.
We had this problem with goofing off in youth group because we were at the time like a bunch of middle schoolers and it was supposed to be a serious conversation.
Mostly me. It was mostly led by you and I would say.
Yes, we asked the most questions, gave the most sass. It was a problem.
Yes. A funny problem, but a
our own
problem.
Things. But so there's this one day, the head pastor came down to talk to us about like, it's not okay to be laughing when the youth leader is trying to tell you something serious. Like, it's not okay to be making jokes, blah, 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 blah.
And I was not there. I was not
Anna
present.
was not there. And I mean, it wasn't like Anna and I ever made jokes about the Bible. Like, we both
No.
understood it was serious, but it was like, someone would say something that's like, that's not accurate.
Yeah, or we'd be like laughing about something that happened right
Yes.
before, or like something would
Yes.
happen on our phones. Like we were never like, Jesus died for our sins. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Never.
Never that. So it was, but there was some boys in the group who were younger, and they would kind of just laugh at everything. So
That's another problem with youth groups too, is the age group was so all over the place. There would literally be like 12-year-olds in our youth group as we're like, I'm 16 years old trying to ask you serious questions. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Anyways.
like if I wanted to have talked about like self-harm,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that in front of a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
So just a problem with smaller churches like that. But anyways, so then the head pastor comes down, and he comes down with a nail and like a hammer. And he is telling us like, this is not a joke. This is super serious. Like, you shouldn't be cracking up about this stuff. And all of us were like, yeah, okay. And then this one kid, he, I don't even remember what exactly he said, but somehow it turned into a conversation with him and the pastor. And he was like, the pastor said, well, what is it that I said he said? Like,
I think he said something like,
like it if
I
I
can't do that. I can't have that done to me because I don't have health insurance. Isn't that what he said?
well, like the pastor said something like,
Yeah. Oh, he's like,
And-
would you want this done to you? It was the hammer and the
yeah,
nails.
he was like, well, Christ died for your sins with this, and like it was put into his wrist, and would you want that done to you, like something there? And this kid goes, well, I would let you, but I just don't have health insurance. And
It's like, how do I not laugh at that? I'm sorry. Is that bad? I don't even know. People are gonna
I
like,
cracked up. I was literally
make-
like, this is unhinged.
yeah.
And I
There
was
were
excited to sit there and not laugh at that.
there were so many things in that youth group though, where I'm like, what was that? Like, kids would just like bring random cans of corn and like just have it with
Finger
them.
puppets, be on the ground, like,
Yeah.
talking to themselves. And it was like, so I would get in trouble for cracking
Yeah.
a joke about something not related to the Bible. And it's like, but this one girl was allowed to lay on the floor and make noises as she played with her finger puppets. It's like, that makes sense.
I'll never forget the time where I think it was Rebecca and I, and we were not laughing at you. It was we were talking. It was not nice. We were talking while you actually had a real prayer request, and that was
Yes.
not nice
There
of
were
me.
one of the moments where I had a serious prayer request.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't nice. I'm sorry for that if I've never apologized for that. And we were laughing. I don't even know what we were talking about. And the youth pastor like lost it on me. I'll never forget that. He like screamed at me.
I'll never forget that either.
And I was like-
I'm so mad.
I was like, is this the route to really we're gonna go? I mean, I deserved it, of course, but I was like, so I don't know. There's a lot of things in there. Let's circle back to boys. So we got off topic. We got off topic. Okay. So I'm trying to think of, I mean, and then there was the situation with Austin. I'll never forget him. So he came from a troubled family. That was a troubled family. They had their own issues happening that even to this day, I still don't know all of it and everything else. But I would say that that's another boy that I didn't really have a huge crush on him. I mean, I think I was just the type of girl that was like, "Oh, you're a boy, I like you." So that was kind of my vibe all the time.
We had like the bad boy,
Yeah.
which was like I had never met a bad boy in my life.
Yeah. And it was the type of vibe where I was like, I want to help you. Like, I'm going to bring you
I'm gonna
back to
make you better.
Jesus. Yeah. Like, I'm going to be with you and you're going to go to heaven because of it. Like, that
Yeah,
was the
like we will
vibe.
fall in love and you will come to Christ because of how much I love you. Like, wow.
You will come to Christ because of me and my love for you.
I love that for real.
Christ love 30%, my love the rest. But there one situation I'm thinking about is during our not a Halloween party. Absolutely not. It was the harvest party. For some reason we both came as Little Red Riding Hood. I don't think that was planned.
No,
I think we
were kind
just
of in like an off phase at the time.
and I'll never forget we were walking and we saw him outside the church and he was smoking a cigarette. Do
Was
you
it
remember
really
this?
when we were wearing those outfits?
It was. It was 100%.
I totally thought we were younger, but wow.
Yeah. So how old would we have been then? Do you know?
I was in 8th grade.
Okay. Okay. So I would have been a freshman. Almost a freshman. So I'd have been like 14. Yeah. And so he was smoking a cigarette outside of the church. And at that
Like literally
time,
right outside the door. Like
yeah.
totally not hiding it. There's
Yeah.
like glass everywhere. He's smoking on the rocks right by the glass.
Like, can I tell you something? I don't even know if you know. I'm remembering things right now.
Okay.
I'll never forget, like, I don't think this was the same night, but another night where he, like, came to youth group for, like, a few minutes and then left. I don't know if you were there that night. Maybe you were. I don't know. I barely have any memory of anything. But I remember he, like, left, and I'll never forget, like, wanting to have that movie moment with him. And I ran out. I can see the door now where you opened the door, you ran up the concrete steps, and you were at the playground. And I did that. And I was like, Austin, if you ever need to talk to somebody, I'm here.
You've told me this, but I know I was not there for this because that would have been wild.
And I just turned around and walked away. And I could, like, hear Kelly Clarkson, like, in my head as I was,
And Austin was probably like, literally leave me alone.
who is this 14-year-old? I'm 17. Okay, but that brings me back to my point, though. Like, we both saw him smoking that cigarette is burned into our skulls. I will never forget that. I can
Yeah.
see it vividly as we're talking. I can see him outside smoking
I
the
know,
cigarette.
I can too. It's wild.
And we were so worried. And for what? Who
Who
cares?
cares?
Yeah. It's like it brings me to this idea that as girls and boys too, but I feel like girls do this more because we're more emotional, because we're more nurturers, we care more. And we put so much stake into what boys think of us and what we can do for boys to get them to like us. And I look back at those times like, who cares if he was doing that? He was literally a 17-year-old at the church harvest party. Okay? Who
That
cares?
wasn't our problem.
Who cares? Yeah, who cares? Just walk away. But I'll never forget, like, I'm pretty sure I texted him later and asked him if he was all right. Like, who the heck cares? Okay? Because, and then I
That's so funny.
brought this mentality, though, into high school. Like, it does, that's the thing is people are like, oh, be easier on yourself. You know, you're just a kid. I brought it all, like, I meant that when I said that I would say that I made boys an idol in my life probably all the way up until I met my own husband. Because of he was the first guy to ever come into my life where I knew that no matter what, he cared about me. So I did not have, and he reassured me to that. So I did not have to worry about him and what he thinks of me. I could focus on, you know, my relationship with Christ, etc. Like he grounded me, I guess you could say. But up until that point, I made everybody an idol. And I feel like that kind of brings us to more, you know, serious guys in our life because I mean, would you agree for you that this pattern of like not being obsessive, but maybe even a little bit, kind of went into when you were starting to seriously date, like thinking of them more so than you should be?
I mean, 100%. But I also think that's totally normal. Like, and yeah, it's wrong, but it's not. I mean, I wasn't trying to think about boys all the
Yeah.
time. It was just like I couldn't stop. And I also think that part of the reason why we both desired like a relationship and to be wanted by a boy so much was just because we had this desire to feel loved in a way that we weren't getting anywhere else.
Mm.
And not to say, that we weren't getting love at home, like we both were, but it's like you had that desire to have that relationship. Does that make sense?
Yes. And it's filling a hole that God should be filling that you're not
Hmm.
filling with him.
Yep.
That's why I kind of say that I made boys my idol, is because when you're making something bigger than God, you're automatically making it an idol, whether you want to or not. I mean, you can make the Bible an idol. You can make praying an idol, because if you're putting those things ahead of what the actual purpose of the things are, then you're making it an idol. And that's why it's like when I talk about the guy that I was talking about at the very beginning, Eli, who sent me the Candy Heart Friend Zone. Never forget that. And if he ever watches this, I can't stand you. Anyways, I'm just kidding. But the point is, like, I put so much time, and he told me multiple times, I don't have feelings for you. I don't like you that way. And I made him an idol in my life. And I agree with you that that's a normal stage to go through. However, though, it's like I don't know if it's necessarily it just because it's normal doesn't mean that it's a good thing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm
No, I
sure you
agree.
would agree with that. It's like just because it's like, oh, this is a stage you go through. That's why I kind of wanted to have this like fun and candid conversation, because it is funny now. But at that time, like when he was smoking the cigarette, or when Dominic was talking to us about playing in the youth group band, like the dumb things like that, it's funny now. But at that time, like my mood hinged on those things. Like if Dominic read my text and didn't answer back, like I would physically be upset the rest of the day. And not because I'm crazy, but because going hand in hand with what you said, oh, it's kind of normal. But it's like I wanted to make this episode to really talk about how you should be trying to train yourself out of that. Because there's a difference between healthfully being like, I like this guy, I hope he's thinking about me, like you said, training yourself out of this mentality where you can go one switch, oh, I'm so happy I like this guy, oh, I'm going to move on and hang out with my friends. Versus
Hmm.
where I was at, it's like that switch never flipped off for me. I was always thinking about that person, always trying to do that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I feel like I had a unique experience, and I mean, you can tell me if I'm way off base about how I acted.
Okay.
But I feel like I mean, I really liked my first boyfriend. We dated for like 8 months, I think. And I, of course, thought I was gonna marry him. But I feel like I did a really good job of whenever I was with my friends. Like, I'd still think about him a little bit and we'd text, like most couples did. But it was like, I was still there for like you. And it wasn't like, oh, well, I could be with him. It was like, no, I
Yeah.
wanted to come hang out with you. Like, I wasn't like, I wish I was with him right now.
Yeah.
It was like I was glad to be with you, and I did that with a lot of my friends. Like I did not want my boyfriend to become my whole identity.
Yeah. And
But
that's the key.
yes, but it's funny because then whenever we broke up, it became my whole identity.
Mm.
Like the fact that I had been dumped was like me. I mean, you remember that.
I do remember that.
Oh, that was so embarrassing. Yeah.
It's not embarrassing. That's not It's not embarrassing. It really isn't.
Well, so to give everyone like the backstory, um, this my boyfriend at the time, he had like skipped school that day because he was sick, quote unquote. And then the next day he had skipped school again because he was sick, quote unquote. But his friend had like said to one of my friends, like, oh, it's because he's trying to figure out how to break up with Jess. And I was like, what? So shocked. And so then I went over to Anna's house and we're just like talking, hanging out. And I think what he called me there to try to break up with me over the
I
phone.
think so. I think so.
And I like lost my mind. Like I started crying a bunch in front of Anna. Like I'm bawling on her
I'm
couch.
pretty sure, is this when you were like, no, I'm going to come over?
Yes, because I said if you're gonna break up with me, you're gonna do it to my face. You're not gonna get the coward's way out, which I still stand by. Like,
Yes.
do not
I
try to
stand by
break.
it too.
If you're in like a what you feel like is a serious relationship, he should not be able to call you and break up with you unless you've been dating for like 2 weeks. Um, but so I go over there and it was just a mess. But he ended up crying. We were both crying. Such a wild time. But then it was like after that, after we broke up, I thought about him more than I think I ever did when we were
Mm.
dating. because it was like I wanted that status
Yeah.
of having that relationship. So I'd be like, oh, I wonder if I'm gonna get like a new boyfriend, or I wonder if he's gonna come back to me. And it was like, but did I even really like him?
Mm.
No. Like, whenever my first date with him, I did not really like him, to be completely honest. Like, I remember thinking this is kind of boring, but I just loved the idea of having a boyfriend. So when he asked me to be his girlfriend, I said, of course.
No, but it's like, but that's not crazy because I feel like a lot
Yes.
of people do that. I don't think that's crazy at all.
And of course, like as I got to know him more and more, like I liked him a lot more. And so, of course, like I eventually really did have true feelings for him. But it was like at the beginning, I just wanted that status. And then when it ended, I still really liked him, but I was like, I wanted that status again. Like,
Well, it goes back to again who you're rooting your identity in or what you are rooting your identity in. You were rooting your identity in being a girlfriend
mhm,
versus, and filling that gap with that. Because then it feels, and then I don't know about you, but once you have one boyfriend, it's like, and then you break up, it's like all you do is crave that
another one.
relationship again. And then it's like again and again and again.
Yes. And then, I mean, I did get another one for like a year and a half, and that was a horrible relationship. I regret every single second of that one. I mean, it wasn't super serious, but he was
Yeah.
a terrible guy. And it's like I just wanted that status. And that was also during COVID. So I gave myself like a little grace. Like I just wanted any connection.
Yes.
And so it was like I would go for anything. And I think about this relationship too, and I was like, that guy was so boring.
Yeah.
No
And
offense to him or to my other ex-boyfriend if he's listening, doubt they are. But just in case, like no offense to you guys, but like we were not meant to be. And
yeah.
I like it was pretty obvious.
See, and I think it is a normal thing to mourn a relationship. That's okay. Like that
Hmm.
when I'm saying like, "Oh, don't be encapsulated by guys, don't be." When you are in a relationship with somebody and that ends, it's okay to mourn that. That is 100% okay. The thing that I'm saying is not okay is when you completely and totally make that person your identity because like you were talking about the fact that cuz you were a good friend when you had a boyfriend. I was awful. When I had boyfriends and I feel like when I had serious boyfriends, you were in Colorado, so we
Hmm.
weren't as tight. We weren't hanging out. But, I had friends here and like I would just completely not spend time with them to the point where then they would know. So they would text me and be like, "Oh, you must have a boyfriend right now because we haven't hung out in like a month."
Ooh.
And then my boyfriend and I would break up. I'd be like texting everybody, let's hang out, let's hang out. And they'd be like, oh, so what happened with you and that guy? Because clearly you guys broke up. Like, that's
Hmm.
how bad my relationships were because of the idea that you're rooting yourself into another person. And people are sinners and people make mistakes. And so when you do that and you root yourself in other people, you are going to be constantly let down.
Hmm. I think what helped me the most to not be like obsessed during my relationship was I have an older stepsister and she had a boyfriend in high school. And I mean, I would only go to my mom's house like every other weekend. That was just how like the custody deal was worked out. And so I really wasn't over there that much, but my stepsister lived there full time. So she was always there. And I kind of just thought she was only 3.5 years older than me, that like every time I got to come over, she would not make plans with her boyfriend. So like we were really tight. We were really close.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell her about boys from school. I'd tell her just literally anything. But then it was like she had got a boyfriend, and it was like I'm chopped liver. It was like,
Mm.
no, I'm going out with my boyfriend, going out with my boyfriend. And it was like I never got to see her, and that really hurt. And so whenever I got to the age where I started dating, I remembered that, and I was like, I don't want to do that to my friends because that really sucked. And she was one of my best friends, and it was like I don't want to be that to other people. And
Mm.
so I'm wondering if there's some like it'd be really interesting to have a study on it, like
Yeah.
if older sisters are more invested in their boyfriends than younger sisters are. Because, like, that's the whole reason I wasn't as obsessed. And I
Mm.
made time for my friends because I knew how it could impact the other people if I didn't do it.
Well, and I was talking earlier about how obviously identity has been a big thing of this, but also how you view yourself is how you're going to let other people treat you and what you're going to put up with.
Mhm.
And one of my more I wouldn't say serious because we didn't date that long, but it was serious in the way that the feelings felt. Like, does that make sense? Like, and we were so up and down and left and right, but we were on and off again for like 2 years of my life. I mean, we were back and forth. I even ended up cheating on a serious boyfriend with this guy. His name was Christian, with this guy, because of the way he viewed me was so important to me. And so I'll never forget, he was kind of on this little weight loss journey, and I would go and grab food, and it started off small, like, are you really going to eat that? That's so gross. He'd be like, you need to work out with me. You're not working out. And it was very small things. And this moment is engraved in my brain. I will never forget it, because it was a moment where I realized, one, I have the lowest self-esteem of anybody that I know to put up with this. And two, but I know I'm going to still come back to this because this is what I think I deserve, is I pulled up to his house one day, and we were never even officially boyfriend and girlfriend. But I mean, this guy like would tell me that he loved me. Later on in life, he was like, we should get married. It was a crazy experience. And I pulled up to his house one day. He was sitting on his porch, and he's like, oh, come sit next to me, all this stuff. And I come sit down next to him. He puts his arm around me, and he's like, I want to show you something. And I'm like, all right. And he pulls up porn on his phone. And it's like saved porn. And he starts playing it, and I'm obviously like, I don't want to watch this. This is super weird. And he's like, these are the girls that I watch instead of having sex with you because I wish that you looked like this. And that changed my brain chemistry for the rest of my life, because I have such a competitive nature that the minute he told me that, I did not take that as, oh, well, I'm never talking to you again, you absolute scumbag. I took that as, well, now I need to work on myself to be my best version for him. Because, again, my identity was rooted in what he thought of me. So then I went through an awful eating disorder for the longest time. It's even to this day, I go back and forth with certain things. Like during that time, after he told me that, I would have a smoothie in the morning, nothing for the rest of the day, and then maybe dinner at night, and then that would be it. And then some days I would just have a smoothie, and that would be it for the whole entire day. And it's something where I realized that, okay, I'm letting these people treat me this way because I don't love myself. I don't think highly of myself, because then it went on to get even worse from there. My relationships got even worse. I was treated even worse from there, because when I dated Christian, I'd come from a relationship, and this was my second ever episode, or my first ever episode of this podcast, my second ever episode of this podcast. Right before Christian, I dated a guy who brought me to the back of my car and sexually assaulted me. And I went from that relationship to then this relationship with Christian, where he told me that, to then sleeping around with a bunch of guys, because that's what I felt like I deserved. I didn't feel like I deserved a nice, loving relationship, to then going into the best relationship I had had at that time, cheating on that man with Christian, because again, when he put that in place for me, I wanted to prove to him so bad that I could be a woman that he wanted, that then when he came back to me and was like, wow, you're looking so good now, because he had literally given me an eating disorder. Wow, you're looking so good now. Now I really want you. I gave up all of the good in my life so that I could be like, yes, I win. Because again, everything I wanted to be was rooted in what somebody else thought of me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know. I'm so sorry you went through all that, number one. I mean, I knew all that, but like every time I hear it, I'm always like, I'm just so sorry.
It's something though where it's like, it was so necessary for me because of my personality. Like, I'm a very stubborn person, and God knows that. And I don't, and this is horrible, because obviously I'm not telling people out there to like, okay, then go sin and like go live your life like this. But it's almost like he knew that I couldn't appreciate the small town, I have a daughter and a husband life. I couldn't be that girl who went right from high school, got married, and then just went on with my life. I had to realize, because also the friends I had in my life, they were doing this. They were hooking up with people and having meaningless sex. And so it's like they were encouraging me to do that because it was freeing for your soul. This was so fun. Like you're just doing all of this fun stuff. It's almost like God knew that I had to go through these experiences and realize, look, this isn't worth it. This isn't fun. This isn't like what your friends are telling you it is. Go and be married. And it's also like Steven coming into my life, I wouldn't have, I tell him this all the time. There's no way I would have appreciated who he is if I hadn't gone through all of that. Because now, because he's so amazing and the things that he does for me are so amazing, I would have never appreciated it to the full maximum that I do if I hadn't gone through things. And I think the hardest part, though, is that I look back at that time like, there were so many things and ways that God was like, see, this isn't good. See, this isn't good. See, this isn't good. But I kept going back for more because I was running away, from him. I mean, I went from that and the cheating and everything, and I did that. And then, I mean, I literally went through a bout in my life where I had a lot of meaningless sex with people. And it's something that can be shameful to talk about. But the reason I talk about it is because I want people to know that God saved me from that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I don't have shame in saying it, because it's like, look where I'm at now. And I went through a period of my life right before I met Steven where I just I felt like I didn't have a purpose. And that's because, again, like I'm filling this like God-sized hole with all of these horrible, people in my life that I'm meeting just at whim.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something where, like, at one time I wish I could go back and talk to myself, and at the other time though I'm like, there would have been no way that I would have been this person without that. And so it's hard for me to get on here and be like, don't obsess over boys, but it's like there are things that you can do to set better standards for yourself going forward, like not being obsessed over what Dominic at church thinks of you. Just think about, okay, I hope he thinks I look good today, and leave it at that, and try to focus on other things versus letting that encapsulate
Yeah.
your whole
So you mean just
personality.
like something like, is he looking at me? How many times have they looked at me? It's
Yeah.
just like too much. And here's an example of me obsessing long after I had been broken up with. So I think we had gotten broken up in like October. And then spring rolls around, and I was thinking about participating in track. And then I realized he was in track. So I didn't do it. I instead went for soccer. And what I didn't realize whenever I decided to sign up for soccer is that the track team runs on the track while we are on the soccer field in the middle of the track. So I actually didn't escape him, and I could have just done track if that's what I really wanted to do. It's like that was one of the main reasons I didn't do track. I also I had some other problems with it as well. And I'm really glad that I was in soccer because I really enjoyed it. And I made a lot of good friends there. But I mean, letting a boy
Change
control
the course of
what
your life,
sports I was
essentially.
into,
Yeah.
and then I didn't even pick one far enough away. It was like I didn't even make a smart enough decision. It was like I got to the soccer field the first day of practice, and I was like, wait a second. I forgot the soccer field is around the track.
I feel like the important message of this is to create habits within yourself right now, no matter what age you're on, where it's okay, because God has created us to fall in love with each other and to be married and to have babies. Like, that is okay. But he did not create us to then make that person our God. To make, like, just like you were saying, something as simple as track, but it's like you made him your idol in that moment. Oh, I don't, like maybe God was calling you to track and to do that, and that's a really big passion of yours. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I can't because of this one human being. And it's like you made him an idol of yours in that moment. And so taking that away from this episode, that now we can look back at things and be like, oh, haha, that was so silly. But at the time, like, that was our life. Like, I literally have diary entries of me being like, I have to marry Dominic when I'm older, or else, like, things are not going to go well. It's like, what are you talking about? Or like when I was talking about, even when I was older, like those dating experiences, that I was 19, 20 when those were happening. I mean, these were not even that long ago, and you knew me then and you know me now, and the life change between then and now is is astronomical because I put God as my God and as my savior, not Brandon as my God, not Christian as my God, not Eli, not Dominic, but God as my God. And you knew me at those times when I'd come to you. I'd absolutely no shame, no regret in doing those things or letting people treat my body like that. I mean, I'd literally climb through guys' windows. We would do stuff and they would be like, you cannot exit through the door. Like, I don't want anybody to see you. And I'd have to climb back up through the window and like sneak through the yard. Like, that is so incredibly demeaning to who I am as a woman. It is so incredibly demeaning to the way that God has made me. But it's like, there are girls out there listening to this that are like, I do embarrassing stuff like that to be with guys, or I think embarrassing things like that to be with guys, or I've had these types of conversations. And it's like, I wanted this to be an episode where we tell you that you have more value than changing a passion of yours to another passion because of a guy, or climbing through windows just to feel something with a guy. It's like, there actually is meaning in perfecting your relationship with Christ.
Yeah. And I mean, if there's anyone listening to this who's not a Christian, also focusing your time in on your friends. I mean, don't make your friends your idol or your God either. But those friendships, I mean, you and I are still friends.
Yeah.
And I'm still friends with this other girl who I've known since third grade. And so it's like, I'm so glad that I poured into those relationships, and I'm so glad that I still have those relationships. And it's like, if I had spent more time focusing on all of them rather than just, some time with the boyfriend and then focusing on a couple friends here and there, it's like, would I still be in contact with more people? I don't know. But it's like, I wish I wouldn't have worried about boys as much and would have focused in on my faith and my friends.
Yes. And we went through bouts in time where we were not friends. And I mean, we weren't super duper friendly throughout all those times I was just outlining about when I was, with guys and stuff. When I came to see you in Colorado, it was when Jordan and I had just broken up. But that was like after Brandon, after Christian, after these people where I had, dated them and all this stuff. And it's like, I was just a different person then, because when I came to Colorado, like, I had not eaten in days because of my, wanting to look a certain way and all of this stuff, instead of, working out and treating my body healthily. And it just makes me sad because I know that there are girls out there who think that they need to do things for guys and need to change themselves for guys, or need to talk a certain way, look a certain way, act a certain way because you're making that guy your idol. And it's okay, like you were talking about. There's girls, like, have you ever heard of Girl Defined?
No.
They're two Christian girls, and I've seen clips of them. And, like, for example, one of them told a funny story where they were driving down the road together. It's two sisters, and they saw that this boy that one of them liked was at the diner. And so they made a U-turn, and they, pulled into the diner and saw him. That is funny and cute. That is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of, I don't think. I think that's something funny. You like him, go see him, go talk to him, go pour into him. But they were telling these girls in this video, that's so embarrassing, don't do that, that's not what God wants. Okay.
You can still have fun.
Yeah, still have fun. When we tell stories that are fun, there are moments like when I went to Chuck E. Cheese with Dominic and he used the monkey game. That's something that God's not sitting there like, oh my gosh, you're making him your idol. That's funny. That's a fun story.
Yes.
I enjoyed that story. Dominic was also really good at Temple Run. I'll never forget that. Do you remember that? Is that just me? Okay, anyways.
I told you, you were a bit more into Dominic than I was.
Thank you. Thanks for
But
pointing
I
that out.
also I went to my
School.
school 5 days a week.
You went to school, so that
I
helped.
had other boys that I saw on a more regular basis.
I love that. You're like, since you were homeschooled, you did not have other boys you ever saw.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I didn't have. I think if I had been homeschooled, I also would have been just as obsessed. But I was like, there were guys that I had more relationship with at school, and it was like, oh, I like you. And then my church was like, ooh, I can look at these. Like, these are nice, but I'm not going to talk to them.
So before we go, I think we should each tell a funny boy story that highlights, because I also feel like we've done a lot of harping on the girls about, changing their habits. And just like I was outlining that story that Girl Defined said, who cares? Oh, you see the boy that you like? Go talk to him. Like, that's something fun to do. The difference would have been if he was like, okay, after we hang out, like, I'm leaving, and then you like followed him home. Okay? That's not the habit that we want to create. That's crazy. You're making him your idol. But if you see him and you're like, hey, maybe I should go over and talk to him. God wants us to be in a relationship with people. Like, he literally made us to be relational beings. That's good. So, before we go, I thought we should tell a funny story. So that way people don't think that we're, like, being cruel.
I have one from
Okay.
Justice.
Oh, man. Okay. Oh, yeah. So I should say that before. If you guys know Justice, it's this girls' department for tweens.
Now sold at Walmart.
Crazy. And we both worked there at the Jordan Creek Mall here in Iowa before it closed forever. And I mean, that was my life for a while. I mean, I would like be off and I'd get calls about Justice. I'd get texts. I'd be like, let me do the merchandising tomorrow. I'm 17. What am I talking about? Anyways.
Love Justice.
Yes.
That's what I said.
Yes. People were like cleaning poop out of toilets and
Don't come for me. That's why I quit.
tell your funny story. Go ahead.
So I don't remember if you were on like working that day, but it was some like evening, and this lady came in with her daughter and then her like teenage son, who I thought was very attractive.
Okay, and we were talking about it in the mic, right?
Yes.
Because we everybody in the retail room had like some earphones, and I used to sing in them. Do you remember that? I used to be like, "Oh yeah, Ariana Grande," and so sometimes we'd like talk about people behind their backs. If you ever shop at a retail place and see them have the headsets, they're talking about you. They are. They 100% are talking about you.
I mean,
Anyway,
if you're causing a problem, yes. We
Yeah.
can talk about everybody, but
yeah, okay. I probably did. Anyways, go on.
so he walks in and I think he's really cute. I don't even remember exactly what happened, but I think someone said like, well, what are you gonna do? Just like keep looking at him? And I was like, no. And so I went up to this boy and I said, I think you're really cute. Can I get your Snapchat?
I completely forgot about this.
And he said, I think you're really pretty, yeah. And I got a Snapchat. Nothing
mean-
ever happened. We like talked for like a couple weeks, but he lived like an hour and a half away. So
Oh,
it's kind
boo.
of like whatever. But it was just kind of nice, like, oh, kind of fun. Like I took my shot. It worked. And just flirted a little. It was nothing crazy. But I was like, that's fun.
See, that's fun. That's not crazy. It's like there is such a difference between being, again, making it your idol and just being fun and trying to find a relationship with somebody. Like that's not bad.
And it
It's
wasn't
not
like I
bad.
was like obsessed with him. I just thought
No.
he was cute. And then it wasn't like I went up to him and was like, let's like get a room together. It was just like, let's just like talk.
Yeah.
They're cute.
Should I tell my Justice story then? I don't think you remember. I don't think you were gone because I also have a Justice boy story.
Okay.
So, do you remember? So, when we worked at Justice, you could order food from the food court and they would, like, from Chick-fil-A, and they would walk it to you.
Yes, Chick-fil-A was the best.
You and I, side note, the way you and I used to eat, I had a small mac and cheese from Chick-fil-A tonight, and I seriously had a stomachache afterwards because I was like, wow, this is like overpoweringly not good for me. And then back in the day, we used to get like Chick-fil-A meals and a venti frappuccino from Starbucks, drink it all, and not like meet our maker.
Christine, our boss, Christine. Halfway through my career at Justice, we got a new boss, and her name was Christine. And she would send me to Starbucks to get her a venti frappuccino. No joke, like 3 times a day.
Venti caramel
My
frappuccino.
hands are shaking. It's some problem she said that she had. She's like, I have to go home.
Yeah.
I can't work. And to be like, no, it's because you've had freaking 3 huge coffees today.
She
lady."
would have a venti caramel frappuccino with 3 extra shots, and she'd have you go get 3 a day. And it was Black Friday, and she was like, "Guys, I'm just not feeling good." I'm like, Christine,
wonder
probably because you've had the amount of children in America's worth of caffeine just this morning, and she left us on Black Friday. Okay, anyways, okay.
Christine.
That's a whole other episode. Let's talk about Justice. Okay.
Let's talk about work. Working as a team.
Yeah, let's talk about retail and how much it sucks. Anyways, so I ordered Chick-fil-A one night, and this guy brought it from Chick-fil-A, and he was cute. And it's the same kind of deal. I was like, I was nervous or whatever. And then I think what happened though, because I'm a chicken. You were not. I was. And I think somebody called the Chick-fil-A and was like, "Oh, is Ross there?" Like, because his name was like on the
I
receipt.
did
I think
it for you at Quiznos.
yeah, so I was a coward by then. And she calls and she's like, "Is Ross there?" Or no, because we didn't know his name yet. She was like, "Is the boy that just brought the food to Justice, is he there?" And this girl, the girl that he brought the food to, she thinks he's really cute and all this stuff. So I got his Snapchat. We started talking. Turned out he
Uh-oh.
was the cousin of my first ever boyfriend back in high school when I was like 14, boyfriend. Okay. He was the cousin of this guy, and him and I did not end well. And so when I found this out that he was the cousin, I tried to stop talking to him, and he like would text me, he'd try to call me, tried to Snapchat me, all this stuff. And I literally had to like block him on everything. And that's how that experience went. And then
Oh,
every time
no.
somebody would order Chick-fil-A, I'd be like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Yeah, I'm going to go to the Smelly Justice bathroom. Call me back when whoever is not there.
That's funny.
We could do a whole episode on that as well. But anyways, so I feel like the point of this was there is a main difference between trying to be relational with somebody, trying to, find a partner and trying to date versus, making that person an idol, being obsessed with that person and making them your literal reason for existence.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's kind of the message. Is there anything else that you want to add to that before we go?
Honestly, just don't let boys make decisions for you. If you want to do track, do track. If you don't want to do track, don't do track.
Yeah.
Like,
I almost
don't
moved to Minnesota.
boys in the sport.
I almost
don't-
moved to Minnesota for a guy. And I had a career here. My friends were here. But he was getting a job at Best Buy in Minnesota. And he was like, well, will
Like
you
the
want to move
Best
with
Buy.
me? Yeah.
Like,
It was
isn't that
Best.
one
It was
right
Best Buy corporate, but I don't know what he was doing.
I was like,
That makes
we
it a little bit
literally had
better.
one 5
That
minutes
makes it a
ago.
little bit better.
Where
And
would
he
you move?
would like talk about moving, and I'd be like, I'm gonna move with you, girl. You've been dating 2 months. What are you talking about? Okay. So to your point, yes, don't let boys make decisions for you.
But it's okay. It's okay to flirt. It's okay to have fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
And we're gonna make
I
mistakes.
reminisce on my high school. I was in like the 4-H stuff. I would hang out with these guys who lived super far away, so nothing could ever happen. But it's like it was fun.
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with it. It was completely innocent. Like we went
Yeah.
on what are those called at the state fair where you can ride on the chair over?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. The things in the air.
Yes. Like we went on that together and he put his arm around me and it was like the greatest moment ever, I thought. It's like no.
Yeah. See, and then
Okay.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation too, because people are going to be like, well, that's why I believe in courting and all that stuff, which I do not agree with. I don't
I don't either.
agree with courting in the absolute least bit. I think that is possibly the worst thing that you could do.
I think it's good to get out there and learn what you like and what you don't like. Like my first boyfriend, he was funny, but he also just wasn't like the brightest.
Mm.
To put it nicely. There were a lot of instances which I'm not going to share because if somehow this ever got back to him, it'd be really embarrassing. But it was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I know I want someone funny, but I also want someone who is a very critical thinker.
Mm.
It's like they have to be able to match my intelligence because I think through a lot of things and I like to study and I like to read and I want someone who wants to challenge me in that.
Mm.
Not someone who's like, oh no, this is fine. It's like, no, I want to have this intellectual conversation about this, like theology or philosophy. I like that. And it was like, he was not interested. And it's like, okay, no.
See, that's a good point too, is like each boyfriend I've had, I can pull characteristics from them that I really liked, that I'm like, ooh, this is nice. And I can point out characteristics that I'm like, I do not want this. And then when you find that match for you, you're like, it's funny that God brought you to me because I'm seeing traits in you that I liked in other people, but without all of the baggage that they came with. But there's also going to be, when you find that person, there's going to be things about them that aren't great.
Irritate you. Yes.
Yeah.
There are things.
Yeah.
There are things.
This was Let's Talk, episode 23. Let's talk about boys.